In this episode of Empowered and Unapologetic, we talk with Dr. Ray Doktor for a raw and revealing conversation about why so many high achieving women feel like they have to take the lead in their relationship and what they can do about it. Why do so many men struggle to step up? How does a man's childhood and upbringing shape his ability to lead? And how can successful women avoid falling into the trap of emasculating their husbands without even realizing it? Dr. Ray, a best-selling author and expert in relationships and personal development, is here to help us decode the male experience. He'll share how hidden beliefs affect intimacy, why some men shut down instead of taking responsibility, and what women need to understand if they're tired of feeling like they have to do it all. If you're exhausted from constantly motivating your husband or questioning whether you fell in love with his potential instead of his reality, this episode is for you. And stick around until the end. Dr. Ray has a free resource for you that could transform your relationship and mindset today. Dr. Ray, thank you so much for joining us again. This is our second episode recording.
Thank you. I'm excited. It was fun last time, and it opened up a plethora of other topics, which is why it is that we are doing this again today.
Absolutely. So I have to tell you, I protect my couples and my women like nobody's business. And anytime I bring someone on to discuss this particular topic, not only do I stop recording because it's like, well, you don't have the background or an expertise to go ahead and have this conversation, especially me sharing it. Mm-hmm. With you, there was so much knowledge, so much insight. And this is why we're here for round 2. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. So what would you say is happening when a man doesn't take the lead in a relationship?
Well, first off, I saw the decline of masculinity start probably more like early 2000, where it was quite evident everywhere. I know it had been happening for a while, but the reason why I'm bringing that up, because you have different men from different generations now.
Yeah.
So if you were talking about Gen Xers, I could probably say something a little bit differently, which I will. But if you're talking about millennials, men who grew up by looking at their phone, they grew up with overprotective mothers to where they were treated in a way like they were the prince of the house, mm-hmm. Until they left the house. Some of these men that I'm talking about, that they have an expectation that is what a woman does, mm-hmm. that they just provide and take care of you. Particularly if, just imagine in the relationship with a teenage boy and his mother, that if he's getting all his needs met, mm-hmm. like she's not kicking him out of the house, she feeds him, washes his clothes, and then he becomes a young adult. And then let's say he's even in his 30s, there's a possible chance, unless he's been called out, unless he has worked on himself and really listened to what his women have said, he can just continue to go from one woman to another woman, particularly if he's charming, and that he fulfills something in that woman.
Yeah.
And what I noticed with women being maybe natural caregivers and being empathetic, that they end up holding that space for his potential, or they see the love in his heart, which I think women want to experience. But it's important to remember that, do you want to be with a man or do you want to raise a child?
Yeah.
And so sometimes women will take it really personally, like, don't you respect me? He disrespects me. Don't you know this? But the answer is no, because all he has had was women taking care of him. Mm-hmm. And still, you might be one of those women who has been with this particular man for 2 to 5 years, and he's saying the same thing. You're still going to bed with him. You still pay more than your share, and you pick up where he falls. Yeah. And therefore, He's getting all the benefits. So why would he have to change?
Mm-hmm. No,
And
I
so
agree.
and I'm sharing that with that could be with all men, but particularly like men who grew up with the whole positive parenting movement to where we went from running one extreme for where it was kind of like the baby boomer generation where it was like black or white thinking where you're bad or good, and there maybe wasn't that connection to the heart. We went from that to now where, oh my God, are you okay, my honey? To let's talk about it, let's process it, and where boys, teenage boys and men need to be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do, particularly by a man that they respect and that can mentor them, they'll see their life improve. They'll get better because deep inside, I know most men who are masculine don't like feeling this way either,
Yeah.
that they have lost their path. So, they kind of lose themselves in a relationship because their woman maybe is a little bit stronger. She wants to take the lead. She wants things to be better, but he's just kind of go along with in the
Yeah.
experience.
I'm seeing a lot of women in their mid 30s, 40s that are starting to, want a divorce. They're
Hmm.
in this space of like, I can't do this shit anymore. I have a guy that's on the tit still, and I have kids that are, I still have to also take care of. Like, I can't do all of this, and one of the things that they've said is, I can't make all the decisions anymore. When will you take the lead? So let's say for men that are in their mid 30s, 40s, the divorce rate for women in their 40s is higher than it's ever been. What would you say to women that are experiencing that? Like, what are some key childhood or upbringing factors that shape how men show up in their relationship for the older ones?
I'm going to give you an example and hopefully maybe even give some tools here. So, because it's currently happening right now, and that is where I have a girlfriend and we're moving to another state. And her co parent pretty much calls her for everything, like almost like everything, like how do you even put on a shoe?
Yeah.
And his father wasn't there, and he was raised by a depressed mother. But the thing is that he has a really big ego, and because he is supposedly a medicine man and helps others, but he's not really instructional with raising his son. So I have picked up the pieces, and I'll give you an example where we were at Disneyland in December, and I saw his son, who was like kind of like my stepson now, lean up against the urinal with his body was pressing up against where men actually pee and it drips.
Yeah.
And I was surprised. So when he came out of the bathroom, I said, so and so, I said, are you aware that you pushed your body up against a bunch of other, like probably 1,000 men's urine?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, I go, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to keep some distance. And he had a strange look on his face, like embarrassment. But what came up was that he shared with his mother, my father hasn't taught me this stuff, like frustration.
Mm.
Okay. And then when his father's given any instruction, he labels my girlfriend as being critical. When it's more that, no, I'm trying to help our child. This is feedback. So he gets really defensive. He hears it as if there's something wrong with him. Now, I'm bringing this up because this is what probably a lot of women are experiencing. Because first, it might have been where you're in your heart and you're saying, hey, can you help me out? It comes from this, I need help. Later on, it's like, what the F are you doing
Yeah.
on the couch?
Why the
Like,
fuck are you
come on.
still
Like,
here? What do we do? We didn't I
yeah.
just say
And,
that we could do this 5 years ago? Yeah.
yeah. And so Nicole shared with me when they first had their child that literally he was like smoking weed and they were doing something with their child and he would like doze off, like
Mm.
fall asleep, check out. She kicked him out.
Yeah.
And now what's happening is that we're moving and she's kind of like, this is just happening.
Yeah.
I've given you 6, 7 months to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of just going for it.
Yep.
And this is the story that I'm going to share that's really poignant about all of this. And I think the women will get this. And it's this. In her mind, 9 years ago, when she had her child, it went from her co-partner spitting in her face when he got really angry one time to where he smiles and pecks her on the cheek, like it's cordial. However, she still has to wait to get like a meeting with him. A month and a half. The guy is an entrepreneur. If she went to court, it'd be unacceptable.
Yeah.
So she has created the idea, because I try to get her to lean in a little bit, that it's so much better now. No, it's not. She does all the decision making. She's still bumping heads with him when an educator is saying that the child is not doing well in this department. But when she reports that to him, it once again, it's you're overly critical.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the thing is that he might be more respectful, but still her walking on eggshells. So she's basing the relationship off of how she feels versus what's really happening. How she feels
Mm-hmm.
versus what is really happening. Meaning that I said to her, I go, you have to, he's calling all the shots still.
Yeah.
You have to wait for him. You do all the work. And he doesn't even know anything about school. So therefore, when you share it with him, he bumps heads with you, and yet it ends up going your way anyway.
Yep.
So the only difference is that he's not spitting in your face. He's paying child support. He's shown up equally to be present with their son, but he doesn't really participate in ways that can help her. But that's the main thing to hear. It's this. I noticed that with women, it's a generalization, there's different levels of belonging that are deep rooted into, say, survival, such as most women are smaller than their partners. They can physically be hurt, okay? Physically be hurt. So there's that primal part of them where women have had to acquiesce to bad behavior, to adjust and so forth, because they have not had rights to where men are physically bigger, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Number two, I think we agree that for whatever reason, I can start breaking down their brain, but it seems as though that women have a tendency to be a little more empathetic, whether it's because they're able to activate, both left and right hemispheres and be able to attend to the kids, but also maybe move into the masculine and get the kids to school, that they can kind of play both roles, which is more difficult for men. So when the partner, their husband or partner is not filling in, they just do it anyway because they care for the children. They even care for him. So they'll naturally go in that direction because it's a big part of who they are. It's natural. But what ends up happening in time is resentment.
Yeah.
That they're not getting their me time in there.
Mm-hmm.
Their self-care. So that second one is that, like, a lot of women have the tendency to be more like the glue that keeps the family together.
Yep.
And so they'll end up losing themselves in that because they're kind of holding the whole home together.
Mm-hmm.
Even when women did not work, they were holding the house together.
Yep.
Like, say, if the man was off, like the breadwinner, working 70 hours a week, coming back, even being an asshole, that he would say, well, all you do is take care of the kids. You're with the kids all day long.
Yep.
They're the glue, the love that kept it together. And women are still doing that, even if they're now working. And then the third one is this, is that I know that women still will feel like a failure if this ends, if it doesn't work out.
Yes.
That's a big one. And so whether that's outdated programming or not, the reason why I share this, because those are three kind of collective fears that move through most women I know. And it's why they might choose to stay in a relationship. But what they could do is recognize, I know what I feel towards my husband or partner. I know what this feels like. It feels bad to end this or to say something to him. He has said this and that, but what is his action? Has he moved in a direction to improve what we agreed upon? Even though he has said yes, is he still breaking agreements?
Mm-hmm.
My girlfriend's co-partner always breaks agreements still does.
Yeah.
And she never got like a legal stipulation. And I said, you should do this still. But because he doesn't have some like the law or someone else to keep him accountable, he still keeps breaking agreements. But what she'll do is, well, it's not that bad. He's still spending time with our son. Okay. But she's always having to move her schedule around for him.
Yep.
And it impacts us
Yep.
and our relationship.
Yep.
So you can see where I'm like, there's a boundary also being crossed in our relationship because you're holding too much for this person who's 46 years old and he should have his shit together.
Yeah. Well, 1,000% impacts your relationship, and not only are her boundaries being crossed, but now it's almost like you as well are taking on a burden that she's actively agreeing to that you may not at all, condone.
Yeah.
I hear a lot, did I fall in love with his potential? A lot of women say that they fall in love with their husband's potential, but years later, they're still waiting for him to step up. How does this happen and what can they do about it?
Is that the question?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, first off, if you're waiting for your partner's potential, kind of, it's almost like you're hoping they'll change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing to ask yourself is this: does he see the value in changing?
Ooh, tell
Does
me
he see the
more.
perceived value of how that would benefit him, his life, his relationship with his kids, and at his job? Because that's also an approach that I've had women do when they recognize this behavior is impacting many areas in
Yeah.
their lives. So they might say, again, if you've been having this conversation for a really long time with your partner, at this point, you might be young already, or you're just over it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not in that space, the invitation would be something like this. It would be where, Joe, I really, I just really believe in you. And I know that I'm turned on when you're more assertive and you make decisions. And I just wonder how that would show up, in your leadership role at your work also. Like, and he might bring up like how he has been demoted because he didn't lead very well, or he might recognize that he can make more money to even that, when it makes me, it's like coming back to her body, not you. I really feel turned on, or I feel safe
Yeah.
when you're able to commit and follow through with these things. And I notice with our kids, they also feel like some sense of safety with that kind of healthier boundary and container that they can trust upon, so it's those are ways that you can get a man to get called into action, where it's not blaming him, but it's where he recognizes the perceived value in other areas in his life also,
Mm-hmm.
because I think most people want to be a good human, right?
Yep. Yep.
So but waiting on someone's potential, and if it's like, here's the thing, if you have a man who's been closed off for 10 years, and he's never really been communicative and sharing his feelings, and he has a father who's the same way as well, that might just be as good as it's going to get.
Yeah.
However, if that man were willing to go to coaching or therapy, what's interesting about that is I had one 3 months ago who cried in my seat like 3 to 4 different times, a very man's man. And he was referred to me by his son. And his son said, you're going to learn a lot about me from my dad, because my dad could be a little bit detached.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Cried 3 times on a chair, like he was a very sensitive, strong man. And he doesn't say a whole lot of words. He doesn't share, but he feels, and his presence is very laser sharp. So he also brought in his wife a couple times. And what came up was that she didn't care so much whether or not he communicated the same way with the same enthusiasm as maybe a feminine person. It was where she felt like he cared, the
Yeah.
presence, just looking at her.
Yes.
And so he learned that he didn't have to be this amazing communicator.
Mm-mm.
If anything, it was being an empathetic listener,
Mm-hmm.
being present with his woman.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's like recognizing, if my husband were to be these things for me, what would I be able to achieve? How can I expand our relationship a little bit more? What is the actual outcome I want from this? So, as an example, can you share some things that the women share with you
Well,
that you know about?
yeah. Right now as you're saying that, a couple things come up. One of them in particular is, I appreciate you saying that men will go ahead and change, just like women will change based off of if that's something, whether or not that's
Mhm.
something they value. I
Yeah.
love that you said that. One thing that comes up with what you just shared is, um, so you get to see that emotional component. And me as a therapist, I get to see that emotional component. What is keeping him from being able to share that with her?
Can you share with something more specific?
Well, you mentioned, with your client, he said, you'll learn a lot about my dad. You'll learn a lot about me, about my dad, or from my dad, and then you also mentioned, that he's cried in your office, a couple of times, right? And then you brought his wife in, and she had said that, I just want to know he cares. I just want to know, like, what I'm saying to him, it's resonating, because it feels like he changes for 5 seconds and then after he reverts back to the same person.
Hmm. I'm
So,
going to give you something that happened with that particular couple, and it was interesting to see if I can remember this. So he wanted her to be on the same page as far as he was trying to put money together. He's about to retire, and he wanted to make sure that they're on the same page of like, so this can happen and they can be together forever. And this is
yeah.
like his third wife.
Oh,
And he was coming to me because he kind of had like some anger issues and stuff coming up, which has now been resolved. But he felt as though she was like not trusting him. And it had something to do with, let's say, the way he handles money. Like he just kind of went out there like it was an attack on him, versus that when I brought her in here, she said that you're thinking about the future, but in this now moment, like there's not harmony.
yeah.
Well, how could I even wrap my mind around putting money aside when things don't feel good right now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when I reiterated that to him in that way, that because it was obvious she loved him and cared, it's why she was here, and they were both able to reframe that. He was able to also respect her, and that's also why she was attractive
Yep.
to him, because she had a spine.
Yep.
She had a spine. Okay. Now I'm bringing this up here, Veronica, is because there's this idea about perceived value that is utterly important for everyone to hear. And that is, as an example, if a person has like drinks 2 to 3 beers a night, and you see that person kind of check out, they're not as close to their kids, but they get to work on time, they might not be considered an alcoholic, then it's not a problem from them until it's a problem for them. So
Yeah.
as his wife, you might think, but you go to sleep, we're not intimate anymore. Like I can just see you kind of check out on the couch. But he doesn't see it as a problem until he actually recognizes that it is a problem. Okay. And so if you're trying to get your husband or partner to do something, do you know whether or not he perceives that as an actual problem? He might agree to you
Yep.
just so you'll stop talking.
Yep.
He might agree to you because he just wants you to stop talking or whatever. Or that when he smile and he looks at you, that's when he finally stop.
Yeah.
So I know you don't want to interrogate him, but the thing is that it's asking questions like, do you know why this is important for me or for our son?
Yep.
And you would want him to communicate that, because it builds trust, it makes life a little bit easier. Like you want to hear that from him. But if he's not able to answer why it can help you, and he just attacks you of like how you don't accept him as he is, then you have to recognize that that's as far as he's come in that moment. And you might have to approach the conversation another time. And that might be where you're saying, yeah, I know you love me. Start off with a positive. I know you care about me. And can I talk to you about things that could help me feel better?
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do that you're doing anything wrong. It has to do with like things that can help our marriage, because I also know that you want things to get better, that you want to improve things. And you approach it different ways. But I know I'm sharing all this as a seasoned coach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sharing this because I know most people can't communicate this way, particularly when it's kind of heated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So did you get a lot from that?
Yes. No, I hear you. I hear you. When should a woman walk away versus work on the relationship?
Well, first off, if you come to a place where you find peace with exactly how he is, and that still you feel like he's just not aligned with you, that might be a good indication.
Yeah.
2, you go to a therapist or a coach, and this happens often, where he plays out that shit with a coach or therapist.
Yeah.
You see it and you recognize, oh, he gets defensive with Dr. So-and-so as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just me. So now you can also say, I tried, and I recognize it's not just with me.
Yep.
3, it's where, not that you give ultimatums, but you share with him that you are concerned about the relationship, and you feel like if things don't improve, that you're not sure if you want to be in it. And you see what he does with that. He might not do anything. And I know women will throw the threats out there, but nothing changes. And they're still saying the same thing for the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So then there's got to be a point where you recognize, even though you're saying that this relationship might end, he's still getting the benefits. You haven't left.
Yep.
So you're just going to have to make that decision.
What happens when a woman is in her masculine energy too often? What happens to a man?
Well, if he is wanting to, like, I've met some women who will tell me that they'll complain about the husband, and it's been kind of, what's happened many times is that man, when he tries to help out, she takes over anyway. She's very controlling. She doesn't trust how he's going to do it.
Yep.
So there's that. It's also, I'll give you an example of, my girlfriend's working on this. It's funny. She's a coach, and she's pretty strong, and she's working with someone to help her with communication sometimes. But let's just say when I do something really well, whether I get another client or book became a book bestseller, I don't know, little things. The way that she would celebrate me would be, oh, that's really good, honey. And I would kind of go, and so we can be authentic with each other. I said, it almost sounds like you're talking to your son. I go, I don't know. Like, I go, how could you speak if you want to celebrate me? How would that sound differently if you were to kind of bring that up from your pelvic area?
Yeah.
And things started to shift, like where she's actually, communicate with me in a way where I just feel her heart. Like, I know some coaches and therapists will say, the reason why he's threatened is because you make more money, or they'll believe that you need to appreciate men and compliment him. Here's more what's going on. If he's hearing more of what's going wrong all the time, and you're nitpicking at him, then you might not be seeing his efforts. But if you have a man who's not putting anything into it, like, you're probably in a wrong relationship.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about where you recognize he does show up in many ways, but you want him to prove still in different areas.
Yep.
So it would be important to try to lead with more what you'd celebrate. Lead with the connection of, like, I really like how you mow that lawn. Mm-hmm. Could you, just imagine he mows the lawn, but he leaves the lawnmower out, and like it's in a way of the kids' bikes or something.
Yeah.
It might be, I'd really appreciate you take care of the house. Is there any way that you can pull the lawnmower in so it makes it a little bit easier for the kids to, go back and forth on the path? It's just trying to find something good in that partner.
Yep.
And create that bridge of connection, and then communicate. And never the you should do this, you're doing that. This is why you are the way you are. Keep it into I statements. I'm feeling this. Yep. This is what I prefer. What do you think about this, John? Yep. And if you have a man who just keeps checking out and doesn't want to talk, you don't really have a relationship. Bottom line, he's not relating to you.
Yeah. This leads me to my next question. What should women do differently if she wants her husband to take more responsibility?
Well, first off, she has to see whether or not she can let go to let him take some responsibility.
Yep.
So that's one of them. It's 2 is have an agreement, not when you're in a fight, but to say, hey, let's look at the household. Let's look at what we can do, because, we have strengths and weaknesses, and there might be things that I could do better. Yep. Can we talk about this? And if we do talk about this, can we just agree that we're going to do these things? Because, when I feel happier and lighter, I'm happier in the bedroom. Like with a lot of men, like it's not about a woman's body and their sexuality, but I have to say, as a masculine man, that when I work hard, when I do things that, and my woman's happy and laughs at what maybe something I did that's funny, or she just seems like she's in her femininity, I want to do it again and again and again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then again, there's some men who like are really like misaligned from their purpose, and they've been raised by their mothers and treated like a prince, that they don't see the perceived value in contributing at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the first one that you gave us. Like, are you willing to let that go? And if not, why? Why? If a woman is exhausted from constantly motivating her husband, what's the first step she can take to shift that dynamic?
Repeat that again. Sorry.
No, you're good. If a woman is exhausted from constantly motivating her husband, what's the first step she can take to shift that dynamic?
Well, the first step is just going within herself, because nothing's going to shift, even if it leads to divorce, until she feels better about it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, some things that she could do is this: is my frustration because I have a lot of unmet expectations that have not been met.
Yep. Yep.
And you write that out and see whether or not this is something that should be expected in this partnership or not.
Mm-hmm.
Two, am I waiting on someone's potential rather than loving them as they are? And if I can love them as they are, how would I show up better? And how could I feel lighter in the situation? Could I accept this person as he is?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, you got a problem there.
Yep.
Because if you look at your partner now and say, I would never date this guy if I were to meet him tomorrow, then you have a problem there.
Yeah.
And, you have to like probably see a coach or a counselor, to work on that. Three, it would be, what am I really motivated for? Like, meaning some people get so caught up in making sure that he does things a certain way that women, or both men and women, but women particularly, they can get lost with what's not done yet,
Yep.
versus the home actually is pretty calm,
Mm-hmm.
or that the kids are thriving, or
Yep.
the bills are being paid, versus where it was 10 years ago. And so to help that area would be, what are the things I can appreciate today, right now, with how things are?
Yeah.
And I do that too. I've been doing it lately, because I'm going through a lot of moving parts, a little bit more stress. And I notice myself getting overly critical.
Yeah.
That's my shadow.
Yep.
And so I started going back in my journal and writing just the things I'm grateful for. And it definitely lightens my heart. Those three things are tools that women could use to see whether or not this whole idea of losing motivation is even working.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Many women don't feel safe with their husbands, not physically, but emotionally. How can couples rebuild that sense of trust and security?
Well, if a woman has completely lost trust with even herself, because she's been in this neglectful, toxic relationship, she's not even in a position to see if she wants to repair it.
Mm.
That's a hard truth.
Yeah.
So if you're in pain, then also your husband may be shut down too.
Yeah.
It's going to be maybe challenging to communicate from that place of curiosity and like openness of like what is new about, over the horizon. And so I think it's important to recognize that when it comes to trust, for every woman that's listening to this, it's being able to arrive to this moment, such as saying, do I trust my decisions right now? Do I trust my inner guidance system right now? Do I trust my heart? Do I trust that if I have this conversation, I'll be okay?
Yeah.
Can I trust that things are going to work out whether I'm with Jim or not?
Mm-hmm.
and be able to arrive to a place of peace within. If you can't, if you have a bunch of uncertainties, then make sure you become solid and crystallize that in your body. So when you have that conversation with Jim, when you have that conversation, maybe make decisions, you're come from a place of wholeness, not a place of missing and hoping what he says to you will fill that broken part of you.
Mm-hmm. Bingo. Bingo. Nailed it. Mm-hmm. If a woman listening feels completely done with carrying the weight of the relationship, what's the one thing she can do today to create change?
If she already is getting truth from this and what she needs to do, that's enough to celebrate.
Yep.
I would actually take out a journal and talk about and write down what are all the wins I've made anyway, despite being in this challenging relationship.
Yep.
And look at those wins for the last couple of years. So you can see no matter what, you've been moving forward. Then ask the question, what would it have been like if this relationship was lighter? I'd be
Yeah.
flying like an eagle. Okay. So I'm not moving towards deprivation. I'm moving towards something even
Right.
better to up level. And it might not be up leveling with your partner.
Yeah.
It might be up leveling with yourself, future partner, or whoever.
Yep. Yep. You have free resources that can help women take the first step in changing their relationships. Can you tell us more, and where can we find you?
So best place to go to, because it's timeless, and I've had the website for over 25 years. It's raydoktor.com, and that's spelled RAYDOKTOR.com. And then I also provide a link that can go to my YouTube channel, and also we're pretty much finished with it, but we do have a group, and the topic is working with strong women. Yeah. It's actually my partner Eric and I, we're done with all the copy and all of that. So by the time women listen to this, they can actually go to my website and it'll show the group experience, and it is primarily for women.
I love it.
I don't think there'll be any men in it.
Okay.
And we're not going to mansplain. We're not going to tell you why how you need to be. We're not polarity coaches. No. You're too masculine. That's why. None of that shit.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
No.
Dr. Ray, you have given us the raw truth about what's happening when men don't step up, and more importantly, what we as women can do to shift the dynamic. If you're tired, ladies, of carrying the weight of your relationship, this episode is your wake-up call to start making real change. If you found this conversation valuable, don't forget to download Dr. Ray's free resource and check out his book, All It Takes Is One. Thank you for tuning in. Dr. Ray, thank you so much for all of your valuable insight. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.